You're tuning in to Why We're Here, honest conversations about companies worth joining, with Amit Matani, CEO of Wellfound.
Hey everybody, I am here with Zain from Zain Ventures. Thanks for joining me, Zain.
Thanks for having me on.
So Zain, you got a really interesting story. You started a company, made it huge, sold it, and then became an investor, and now we're kind of tinkering with new things. So I want to dive into each of these parts of your journey, but maybe we start with the first part, starting Vungle. Where did that idea come from? Why did you decide to start the company?
And it was a series of pivots. It always sounds like an overnight success, especially as back then, the idea we were working on sounded so stupid to most people. And today, you've got another competitor that's one of the world's biggest public companies now doing the same thing that we did. So it was a hard journey. Typically, startups take a long time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and I've definitely gone through that as well. So basically, the idea started when I realized mobile apps were taking off. Like many revolutions, we've seen blockchain, we've seen AI agents now. Back then, mobile apps were the hot thing. This new platform that was just going to completely change the way people consume content. And we were right with our bet that it did change content. So I thought we need an advertising platform on mobile apps. And basically that was the idea. We realized the games is where we started. These games need a way to get users and they need a way to make money. And we just started tinkering around, building technology, and eventually, it worked. Now, obviously, there was a lot of work to get to that realization, but that's the core that pretty much after we figured that out, that's all we did until we sold.
Where did that idea come from? Was it something that you guys were like, okay, look, mobile's going to happen. Ads have to be on mobile. Let's just start there. But what was the founding story? What did you see in the world that maybe other people weren't seeing at the time?
So I think it started off, if you go back to my very early history, I started coding and building websites when I was 13, 14 years old. So I needed ads on my website so that people would click on them and I'd make money. And that is something that I was always obsessed with. Like, wow, all these content publishers need a way to make money with ads. And so as mobile apps were taking off, I was quite curious about how that world would work. And at that time, we were ideating. We thought video is going to be big and maybe we should do like these video ads for people. And so we started out as an agency just building video ads for all these new products. We had Google and Spotify as clients. As exciting as that sounds, the business was like tens of thousands in revenue. It wasn't like huge. It was just an agency. So there we were, two guys doing these video ads for companies. And we actually got into an accelerator in San Francisco. We applied. It was called AngelPad. It was like YC. And when we got there, we wanted to do something a lot bigger than just be a video production agency. And through that 12-week program, we had a structure to go call companies, ask them what they do with our video ads. And that's when we really hit gold. So here's how it worked, okay? I talked to a customer and really I'm being forced to talk to them. I don't like talking to customers. I like building things. So I'm talking to a customer and I'm asking them, why did you buy our video ad for your mobile app? And they'd say, I don't know. I'm like, well, this isn't going anywhere. But our mentors told us, keep asking why. Peel this onion and get to a deeper layer. So, well, I don't know why I bought this video ad. It sounded cool. But why does it sound cool? I don't know. Everyone has one. Okay. That's the first insight. This is something everyone's going to need. What did you do with that video ad we built for you? Well, I don't know. I just put it on YouTube. Okay, there's another insight. He took the video and he put it on this online platform called YouTube. Why did you put it on YouTube? Oh, I thought people might watch it. I sent it to a journalist because they need a way to view my app, and the app store sucks because there's all these text descriptions. I wanted to show my mom and dad to make them proud of what I'm building. So ultimately what I realized is they want users. They don't just want someone to watch that YouTube video. They're hoping you like that video. It shows you what the app does. Now you're going to go and install and download that app. So I realized that's the core problem. They may be paying us a few $1,000s to build this video. Ultimately, what they want is someone to watch this video and download that app. That's when I realized, okay, how do we do this? So we started out by building like an online ad platform, but attribution was difficult. How do I prove that you watch that video and you download the app? There was no way to really do that. And it was hard to stand out in this very murky, spammy environment, which is called online ads. Then we struck gold. Then we realized, you know what, there's this SDK and we can basically find a way to show a video ad inside of a game. Oh, you know what? We can actually see the device and we can get a ping back that they installed the app. Wow, this is interesting. This is some kind of performance platform. We don't even have to charge per click or per view. Let's take a risk. Let's build a platform where someone watches a video ad, and if they like it, they download it, and then we get paid. And I went to customers and I said, hey, what do you think of this idea? Because you told me you wanted users.
Right.
What if I copy this? They're like, oh, we'd love that. Well, how much do you love it? Would you pay for it? Yeah, we'll pay for it. How much would you pay? I don't know, $1 a user? Wait, if I got you 5,000 users, you'd pay me $5,000? That's like more than you paid for the video. Wait, what if I got you 100,000 users? Would you pay me $100,000? Sure. You know what? Can you put that on a piece of paper? That's called an LOI. So I started getting all these LOIs. And, you know, all the VCs that were thinking that me and my co-founder were some two weird British kids who didn't come, you know, from a great background, didn't go to an Ivy League university, didn't work at Google on Facebook, but we had these pre-orders. We had these like signed orders showing people, I've got customers who are willing to get us to millions of dollars in revenue if we deliver. And that got VCs excited, and we ended up raising a round. At that time, funding rounds were a few $100,000, and ours started out that way too. And we raised on a very low valuation relative to what we raised overall. So we gave up a lot of the company, but we ended up raising 500K, and then that turned into $1 million, that turned into 1.5, and it became a party round with like 30 different angel investors and VCs. We ended up with a $2 million, and we had to put it there, you know. It was a big round for that time. We're talking like 2010, 2011, 2012 timeframe. And yeah, we raised the funding, and then we spent the next 9 months burning cash, about to run out of money. That $2 million went very, very quickly. We had a few months of cash left in the bank, but somehow like we started to get early revenue, and we raised a Series A for 6.5. And then, you know, year one, 850,000 in revenue, pretty good. Year two, 15 million. Year three, 56 million. I mean, it was insane. And we just kept growing until we reached several hundred million and sold the company. Today, you know, one of our competitors I alluded to on the call, AppLovin, they're like one of the best performing stocks. They're worth 100 billion plus. And that just tells you, you know, my exit was phenomenal. We sold for $780 million, but I could have sold for 100 times more.
Sure.
You know, so relative.
Yeah. So I'd love to dive into some of these things. So specifically, the first one is this idea of like talking to customers and really kind of asking the whys. And, you know, being an engineer myself and being an engineering founder myself, it's like, oh yeah, I just want to build stuff, right? So where did this, for you, this idea of like going out and talking to customers, was that something that came natural to you? Was it like being part of this accelerator that's like, okay, I'm gonna go try to do this? Like, how did that come about? And like, you know, any tips on like how founders should be thinking about kind of their early discovery conversations?
Oh, it was totally unnatural. As a builder, you want to just execute a process. So for me, it was like, I need a script. I need to sell them something rather than I need to stop. I need to listen. I need to ask questions, and I need to be creative and I understand what is the ultimate problem we're trying to solve for them. So no, it took multiple meetings with mentors, and it took mentors holding us accountable. How many customers did you speak to today? Now we're trying to design our logo. Like, give me some, right? I want to find a good domain name. I want to do all the things that are not important, right? And they were like, no, by the next meeting, you have to come to me and report to me. And we're like, okay, let me go message someone else who went to this incubator. Let me message someone else who's building an app. And more people were building apps. So it was pretty easy to get meetings, right? They build an app. Now what? I need to promote the app. Well, I need a video, but I need to promote the app too. We'll do everything for you. So I was kind of surprised at how quickly the conversation went from like, who are you two kids? What do you want? To they would like, the meeting would go on, and they, you know, it was hard maybe to get that meeting because it would reschedule. They're happy to chat, but you know, you're a nobody. Suddenly, wait, you're telling me you can get me users? Really? That sounds really cool. And I like the idea of video. And people would say this often. They would say, you know, maybe I'm sure if someone watched the video, they're probably a better quality user than someone who just randomly discovered us. And currently we're spending money on ads, but they're like banner ads. They don't show you how the app works. So that got me excited because I was like, wait, not only can we make revenue from an existing workflow that have budget for ads, those users might be higher quality. And if they're higher quality, why am I charging $1 for a user? Right? I should charge $2. I should charge $3. And that's what we did. We just started to charge more and more and more. And that pricing pressure kept increasing throughout the entire journey.
That's really cool. Yeah, I like this, like having mentors that keep you accountable. I find the same thing. It's like, okay, I'll go talk to customers. I'll do it later. Some bug happened somewhere. I can go help with that, right? But like saying, hey, by tomorrow we need to get this done. That's a really cool forcing function. Tell me a little bit about, so my first company was in 2009. We made iPhone games actually when the App Store came out. So we were a little earlier than you guys, but it was interesting because we were earlier, I think, than kind of the gold rush. Like we caught it on the early side. In fact, when we were going to Zynga to try to sell it, Zynga was like, we don't think iPhone games are really going to go anywhere, right? And it seems outrageous now. But it feels like in 2011, like it was popular, right? There was a lot of competitors, and it feels similar to now where like every single AI startup has 50 other competitors. Can you talk to me a little bit about kind of how that felt at that time when you were kind of in the middle of a wave, potentially doing something that other people were doing? How did you kind of stay focused and make sure that, you guys were going to win here?
It was a crazy time, and it's very much like it is right now. Yeah. We're early 2025 having this podcast. People probably look back on this podcast and be like, God, these guys were so wrong, or maybe, But at that time, there was a lot of VC money going into all these mobile apps. And there was this perception that games are just like the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. And people would look down on gaming. They would see gaming as a hits-driven business. To some degree, they were correct. It was a hits-driven business. You'd be at the top of the charts for a while, and then your app would come crashing down. And Vungle definitely suffered from that dynamic with our revenue diversification. We had to keep getting more and more and more whales.
Right.
We'd be top 10 in the charts, and as they go down, we need more top 10s.
Right.
But people severely underestimated how big this market would be. And I almost felt myself being apologetic to VCs when they'd be like, we get it, but games, really?
Right.
Like, where are you going to get those content apps, the newspapers and whatever? And at that time too, by the way, there was an issue with quality. Like a lot of the apps were like farting apps, flashlight apps.
Yeah, I remember.
Meow sound, right? So that was the perception of like, you were trying to monetize that, or you're trying to help those apps get users. But I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, forget what you see now, okay? This is going to evolve. Like in the same way, someone could look at early ChatGPT and completely write it off as like, this is so dumb, it hallucinates. Or, even today with these IDEs that write code for you, sometimes they're really good, but most of the time they start to destroy your product.
Right.
Like they start eating random parts of your code and hallucinating, okay? But this is just the start. Like this is going to transform an entire industry. So for us, we felt like, wow, so many people are underestimating this. And here was the big disconnect, okay? VCs wanted to invest in the space because they needed to show their LPs were investing in this new trend, but they didn't truly believe it, right? And they'd be like, we're passing on you because at most you'll get some $1 million a year revenue, okay? But our customers, they were like, the ones who are in the know, like, man, we'll spend millions on your platform. Millions. So I'm like, how is this VC so dumb to think?
Right.
We'll go from 0 to $1 million and then we'll sort of die down. Whereas my customers clearly have the budgets to spend a lot more, and there's going to be many more Zyngas, right? There's going to be.
It's interesting. It seems like you guys were underestimated, even though it was kind of a wave. Your space didn't seem like people were like, okay, yeah, it feels like, for example, like AI SDRs right now. There's 5,000. There's a new one every day, right? It doesn't. It's for you guys. It seems like this was kind of still kind of not well understood, and so you were still kind of didn't have that much competition.
No, we knew we could build a multi-million-dollar revenue business, but we thought it taps out its head.
I see.
And we used to have executive offsites, and obviously to have an executive offsite, you need to be past 10 million in revenue, right? So when we reached like 30 million in revenue, I remember with our team, like we have to diversify.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to reach 50, maybe 100 tops, and then this is it. And then when we reach 100, we're like, okay, we got lucky.
Yeah.
Maybe the market size is like, we'll get to 200 million in revenues, but then we're really going to die. But like we just started growing so quickly, but we're like, holy crap, we could get to $1 billion in revenue. And now by this point, now you're thinking at a scale way larger,
right?
So it creeps up on you in a way.
Can you talk me through that, right? Like this kind of hyper exponential growth of 800,000 to 10 million, 15 million within the course of a year or two to like much more than that. Like, what does that look like internally? In terms of your own psyche in some ways, right? How are you managing that? How are you managing the complexity of a lot more people, a lot higher expectations and stuff? Maybe just give me like the high level of this, what this was like internally.
Man, I mean, at that point, we just can't hire people fast enough for our
Yeah.
roles. And we tend to look at everyone as a hero. Like, wow, this person signed up that account. We can't afford to lose them. We'll cave in
Mm,
and give them a promotion as we're growing the team. We'll give them more responsibility, even though they were
yeah.
not fit for the responsibility, right? We made a lot of individual contributors, managers, which was a mistake. And we actually had a year where we went from 56 million to 65, I believe. And that was like a panic. Like, we
Mm,
didn't start growing. And that's the year where I was like, stop hiring and actually start making some cuts, because everyone's been taking credit for the success, but there've been passengers on the bus. There's only a few people here who have really been like truly delivering value. And once we started making those cuts, we tripled in revenue pretty much, the next 12 months. So um, there was a bit of glut, like we hired too many people, and hiring more people did not mean we'd move faster.
is there a way to like protect against that when you're growing that quickly? Like I could imagine there's tons of fires everywhere. There's all sorts of other stuff, and you want to maintain the culture, but like, that also means that like a lot of things will burn down somewhere else, right? Like how thinking back now, like what could you have done to be on top of that, or was this something that even now you probably couldn't have gotten ahead
I
of?
don't think I could have changed it because
Yeah,
honestly, the real impact is long term to your culture. But in the short term, you're like, California is an at will state. Like, I can hire these people, and if it doesn't work out, like, I mean,
yeah,
we'll have to lay people off at this point.
yeah,
I'm on a hamster like this wheel
yeah,
where I'm trying to run as fast as I can, and it keeps getting faster and faster. And VCs have high expectations. Now
right,
they're starting to see you're growing
right,
quickly. For us, it was like, I remember walking into the office and my executive assistant is like, okay, we've got the team, like the new onboarding speech you're giving. How many people?
yeah,
25 people. What?
yeah,
25 people? What do you mean?
right,
In 1 week, 25 people. And I'm in this conference room and I'm just like having this emotional moment like, man, it was so hard to just get like the first few employees. And now we've got people from Google, we've got people from
right.
Zynga, we've got people from all these companies I dreamed about working for us. So it was surreal. But no, at that point, I wouldn't have changed things. Like it was just keep hiring more people. Because honestly, I didn't know what it was that was making us grow really quickly.
Mm,
So at that point, I don't want to slow down in any area. I need more
right.
engineers. I need more salespeople. And frankly, we created a culture of excess. Like our execs wanted to empire build. And so all I'm hearing from all directions is, Zain, we need more headcount. Zain, I really need this person. So I'm getting brainwashed. I'm thinking like, wow, my team is telling me my job now is to just go hire. So then I start investing in a lot of infrastructure to hire more people as well.
Are there things you learned about hiring at that point that you take with you now? Like, are there specific, maybe even the strategy to hire people, the time to hire people, how much
Yeah.
you want to hold off potentially, just in general, like what are you taking away? And maybe you're talking to your companies that you invest in about how
Yeah,
to hire.
so I gave you the mindset of me early on,
Yeah.
but when we started to stall, my mindset totally shifted. And at that point, I really started to scrutinize and add more accountability, transparency. So I really, we started implementing Salesforce suddenly. We start looking at, metrics to judge performance. We start looking at our engineering velocity. At that point, my mindset shifted to I'm never making this mistake again. It was really painful for me to reset the culture. And I had to let a lot of people go because they were promoted into roles they never should have been promoted into. So my mentality turned into hire out of pain, right? Roles will take a long time to hire. People are going to be overworked, but this is a blessing in disguise because number one, we're going to be able to define the job role. The job function now, the manager is having to take on. And as a result, they'll be better at managing someone else who takes that role. So hiring out of pain became my motto. And I would often say to my execs who'd come to me complaining, we need more people. It's okay. We're going to hire out of pain. Okay. When it's painful, at that point, when we're just about to break, we'll add another person to the team. So we definitely slowed down our hiring around the world, actually, because we ended up with like 8 offices around the world, hiring people like crazy, hundreds of employees. But we basically decided like, I don't want to have any more net headcount growth. And I started to report on a metric that changed our culture, which was our average revenue per employee. And I started to be like, look, guys, the markets suck right now. And when we saw the market sucked for our industry, ad tech and gaming, it changed a couple of years later,
Right.
how lucky for us, right? But I'd be like, the only way to guarantee our security as a company is to be profitable from now on and to measure our average revenue per person. And I want to be like Apple. I want to be at like $1 million a head, right? Or higher. That's the only way we're going to be successful. And so I was obsessed with trying to basically make sure every new hire, I don't care what department they're in, sales or engineering, we are making at least $1 million per headcount.
The
Kind
hiring
of
out
the
of
wrong way to
pain's
look at it for engineers, but that's how I did it. And I
yeah.
think it was the right way to look at it.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like at this point, kind of that everybody's doing that now. Like, especially right now, it's like, hire out of pain or like, AI should be doing the work for you. But it's interesting, right? Because like at some level, even hiring out of pain, there's two issues with it. Like one, no matter how, like there's a limit to how hard everybody can work at some level, right? And then you're just gonna have to say no to certain things, right? And then also at some level, there's lead time to actually make a hire, right? It takes a little bit of time to, decide what you want, find the person and stuff. What were the trade-offs that you guys were just okay with? Just like, hey, we're just going to do less, or tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we're going to do less. Everyone's going to have to work more, and you're going to really define this role. And can we bring in third-party tools to maybe do some of this work? Can we outsource it so we're not taking on the burden of payroll? If we're going to hire someone, can we hire an intern? Why do we have to hire someone who's coming in and is going to charge so much? I actually found a negative correlation. The more experienced the people we hired, the less output they would be. So we went back to our roots. We started to look for hungry people who are more junior in their CV, but were amazing culture fits. And those people would literally 10x productivity versus someone who's got like a nice experience and is also joining for like the salary, not necessarily the equity and the culture of a startup.
So, you've now become an investor and you're starting other things. Like, when you counsel other founders and stuff, and obviously there's not really one size fits all, but like, what are kind of the big things that you see founders making mistakes with that you tell them, like, that you've kind of learned over time that you can do better?
Yeah. One thing I'd say that's unconventional as an insight is managing your runway to a set number. I was the one telling the companies I'm on the board of, let's always make sure we have 18 months of runway in the bank. The issue I have with that is that doesn't control for burn rate. And so you end up with some companies where they're burning 100,000 a month, 200,000 a month. They still have 18 months of runway. In fact, I started to see games being played with. Let's go raise $5 million. We're still going to have 2 years of runway. Maybe you're spending $250K a month then, right? So I think learning the role of metrics, because I really find as a board member, as an investor, when you start to talk about metrics, your founders start to listen to those metrics and game the metrics too. I did this too with our VCs when they would talk about gross margins or whatever, right? I'd find a way to make me look good, make our team look good. And realize the danger of putting a metric out there like managing to a certain runway. Runway also needs to have some relationship to your total burn. You don't want to keep burning so much money because you're extremely vulnerable. I had a company go bankrupt and it was like pre-IPO ready. It would have been like an X return for the fund that I started after Vungle, right? And I was just talking to the founder this morning about the mistakes he made. And yeah, like they were doing this. They always had 18 months of runway. But then suddenly the market conditions changed. They had a lot of debt. Interest rates went up. And they couldn't control they couldn't slow down the burn rate. And runway suddenly quickly came crashing to like 18 months to 12 months. And very slowly, actually not very slowly, very quickly, they're bankrupt. They're gone. They're like zero. It was an acquisition, but we lost our entire equity stake because of a down. Big recap.
What about in terms of like building founding teams or hiring, like any like the key things that come out of those experiences?
Man, I wish there was a golden rule because I started Vungle with me and my co-founder, and we weren't technical at all. And we brought in a CTO who's done, he didn't stay with us very long. He went on to co-found Webflow, so he did really well.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Good for him.
He did better than us in a way. But back then, we were two non-technical co-founders, and I felt like, okay, I need technical co-founders. So I actually tried to launch another company about a year and a half ago. And there I had a really strong technical co-founder, and I had an extra co-founder too. So I went from a team of 2 to a team of 3 for my next company. And now I'm ideating on a new startup. And because of AI tools, I feel like, hey, I don't need a technical co-founder. AI is my technical co-founder. I can build the prototype and I can do this myself. And I can now own 100%. When you've caught me at different times, I was very, very opinionated. Like at one point, you need a technical co-founder, right? Another point, I want to have all the equity to myself, and I don't need technical co-founders, which is sort of my mentality at this point in time. Maybe I have the luxury of saying that because I can self-fund, If I didn't have access to capital, I would definitely need co-founders because it's too much to build yourself and you need good technical talent. With me, I know I could probably hire more engineers if I need to for my next company. But right now, AI tools, my God, completely changing things.
What keeps you motivated to keep kind of building? Like, you've sold the company for a lot of money, you've been kind of at this for a while, like, but you're still tinkering, trying new things. Like, what about, what keeps you in the game, I guess?
I don't know. You talk to many builders, and I was not technical before. I became technical after the exit because I got to say, apologies to customers in the past. Our SDK was always crashing. Our servers were always down. We didn't have good like dashboards and stuff. And I swore to myself, never again will I have technical issues in my next startup to this level. I'm going to really understand technology. So I think one came from trauma, wanting to get more hands-on with building. And number two, it's so fun to build something and see it reach market quickly. And only now in this era has the time to market changed from what used to be. Like, I raised $2 million. It took me 9 months to get my product out, and I hired a team of engineers and people. Now, a solo person or two people can get a product out in like a few months without needing to raise much capital. So that's fun. There's an arbitrage right now. Most of the world is still thinking old-fashioned, old school. The founders who are building companies with an AI native approach now have an arbitrage to get the product out quickly, and their DNA, the way they operate, it's going to be a scary competitor for anyone who the incumbents are.
Tell me a little bit about kind of what was more fun, now looking back, like being kind of in the weeds as a founder of a fast-growing company, or being an investor? It seems like an investor, from the side of being an operator all the time, it seems like an investor lifestyle is pretty nice. I don't know.
It's very nice, and it suits people who value lifestyle. It suits founders like me who needed a break from the hustle of running a startup. It's a really good vacation. It's like 20 to 40 hours a week max if you're a VC. I know some VCs, especially founding partners, work as hard as startup founders do. But I mean, generally as a cliche, sure, the VC who, goes on holiday all the time, right? It wasn't as fun. No, it wasn't fun at all. And running my own fund came with a lot of administrative headaches that I didn't appreciate. I thought it would be like just, being with interesting companies, right, and glam. No, like, it's fundraising from LPs, it's reporting. And then, unfortunately, if you're a small VC fund like we were, you get to work with founders at a certain inflection point, and then they no longer need you. Right. They have their own bigger VCs, and you don't get updates from them anymore, and you miss that. Right. So VC for me was like a 7 out of 10 in enjoyment. Building, even prototyping without having customers, is like an 8 or a 9. But like when you have product market fit and you're scaling, 10 out of 10. But the cost of that is like extreme too, because you're having a 10 out of 10 in purpose and enjoyment, but like it's taking away your health, it's right. taking away your relationships, right. It's taking away a lot from you as well.
Yeah. So you're back in the game, you're working on a startup. Is the thesis this idea that, like, look, we can be AI native, we can do so much with so little? Is that the reason to kind of get back into it? Or do you have a specific idea that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I can't sure enough yet because I'm still validating the need for what I'm building. But I feel like we've got a generational opportunity once again to build. This environment will favor builders. And look, worst case, man, even if the startup doesn't take off, you're going to build so many skills of like product development and go-to-market right now that it's going to make you an amazing executive, an amazing director, employee, an engineer, whatever you do next, or VC, whatever you do, build, because it's very worthwhile. So that's my mentality. Of course, for me, I want to build another multi-billion-dollar company, and I think from now on, like, I've gone through enough discovery since the exit that I've embraced my identity. I'm a builder at heart. And I plan to wear this role, even if I'm just prototyping for the next few years. Don't care. Like, I'm living my purpose, and eventually I'll probably launch something again. So that's my mentality at this point.
That's very cool. When you think about, it is different now, right? When at least when I started doing games, 2008, 2009, and you're there 2011, the world was smaller. Like, a lot of these like household names are barely getting started, right? Maybe some of them hadn't even started at this point. And it felt like the industry was a lot smaller. There was a lot less competition. it's different now. Like, there's huge organizations, there's huge companies, there's like people that are 13, 14 years old launching massive companies. How do you think about it this go around when it comes to competition and people doing the similar ideas and stuff? Is it not in your mind? Or yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Oh, I still think the threat to any major company is the two kids in a garage building something, and Bill Gates would have told you that and did say that. That's what he was worried about, right? I feel like there's never been a better time to start a company, no matter what your age is. I do think that the large companies definitely have more budget to spend on AI. So what I think is going to happen is in the service sector, at least, professional services, accounting, legal, banking, marketing, things that are very heavy with labor. We're talking the trillions of dollars of, TAM here. The larger companies in that space are probably going to acquire smaller companies because larger companies have budget for AI. Smaller companies are limited by scale and generally can't do everything and don't really understand AI well. So I do think bigger companies are going to get bigger, but I do still think like a native AI company is going to do really well. There's also great exit opportunities too. If you're building something, a big company will come and buy you because what you've built is valuable. So look, I am saying big companies are probably going to beat like medium-sized companies, but I think small companies are like speedboats. They have the ultimate edge because big companies, they're cruise ships. They take a long time to turn around. They have bureaucracy. They have politics. But you know how many products Google has killed that were billion-dollar
Sure.
Right? They'll shut down products routinely because it doesn't fit the corporate strategy. That's your opportunity. You can go after that niche, and they may be underestimating it. Google and Facebook underestimated our market, by the way, like gaming ads, which left room for us to grow.
Right. That makes sense. It's really interesting because like I remember when we started doing stuff, like the iPhone felt like such a compelling thing. It like felt like magic when you were putting an app on the thing. And in a lot of ways, this round feels similar, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, you can kind of do these things that you only kind of dreamed about before, and they're very easy to do now. It's really wild and a fun time to build. Last question: over the many years, like any other kind of contrarian takes that you have around building, hiring, or anything else around kind of building startups?
Contrarian takes. I feel like because I've been in the VC role, I've seen a lot of pattern matching. At this point, I've invested in over 50 startups. I was very lucky. And I thought every startup that pitched me was going to be exactly like my outcome. And it was a bit of a crude reality check, awakening for me to realize it's hard, it's a struggle. Me being naive was a blessing.
Right.
But I was also very lucky.
Right.
And here's the thing. It's not contrarian, it's a strong opinion I have, and people don't like it because people want to bury their head in the sand and not admit reality. If you're questioning whether you have product market fit or not, you don't have it. Product market fit grabs you, and it's like a dragon, like it's like in your face, it's breathing, customers are banging down the door. To me, I know what that feels like now, and I'm looking for that feeling again with a new company. And it's very hard. Like you have to keep prototyping, ideating, and often you have to feel like, is this the right first customer for me? Because I don't want to build my company around a product that is very niche or only focused around one vertical. And you become a dev shop if you're not careful. Right. So I feel like I've been spoiled with Vungle's success, and I haven't seen many companies that have that wow ingredient yet. And I'm hyper alert now to when people think they have product market fit. I'm like, you don't. I think this scales out. Like the unit economics don't look good. And being a VC has made me terribly pessimistic, man. I can find 1,000 reasons why something won't work. And I wasn't like that before. I was so naive. And when I first started investing, I was so naive too. Everyone who just was friendly and had a big vision, they'd get my money. Then eventually I started to become a lot more analytical and, metrics focused, and it comes from experience though. Like founders don't make good VCs generally because of that. And I've seasoned into the VC role, but like it's kind of boring being a VC. So I want to go back to being a founder.
How do you, so I lied, not one last question. This naivety thing is actually really interesting to me because I've started companies when I was younger and didn't know any better. And it's like, the question was always like, how hard could this be? We can do it, right? Because you haven't gotten your face smacked so many times and seen all these issues and everything else. It's like, yeah, how hard can it be? We can do this. It's fine. And then, you learn things are hard, but at that point you're too far down and you kind of just bunch through it. And one of the worries that I have getting older and stuff and seeing a lot of this stuff is like, oh man, I'm not as dumb anymore, which was actually really helpful back then. Do you think about this at all, after seeing all this stuff?
I mean, absolutely. Actually, I would say the best outcomes come from the most naive founders.
Yeah.
or the most blind founders, because they're not, they're bending reality to shape their will.
Sure.
And if they're right, they make the next Uber, they make the next Airbnb. So I think what happens is, and I'm worried about this myself, I'm worried about this for the way I invest or the way I even approach a new company. Am I in danger of building a company that has good unit economics, but doesn't reach like a massive outcome? It's a logical company to go after. I'm trying to tick too many boxes.
Right.
Whereas when I was running things previously, and I think you're awakening something in me right now. I'm realizing, damn, I need to be a little bit more naive, right? I was looking for polarizing opinions rather than consensus. So right now, I'm maybe at a risk of trying to find consensus in my approach. Maybe it's because I've worn the VC hat a little bit, right? Like, need more data points, need to see more customers like this idea. Vungle, most people hated the idea, hated it, but a very few loved it. And I think that polarization of building a product around the ones who love what you're doing is awesome. So it's very easy to be put off by very negative, visceral reactions to what you're building. And you might just quit and find something more logical. So I think the feedback for me to learn from myself, because you brought that in me, that is, keep turning over more stones. Maybe don't abandon the idea, because I have abandoned some ideas because the first 5 conversations were like, this sucks.
Right.
But like, I didn't care if you said it sucks. I'm building it because I think it's cool. Right. And then some customers like the idea of it. And then I'm like, I don't care what anyone else says. Let's just build it around your needs. What do you want me to build? Tell me. You love what I'm building, and a few others do. So that is probably a big insight for me right now.
Is the other thing, like, I don't know how to phrase it, but like, you've been successful, before you weren't, right? Like, there was some level of like, if it doesn't work, well, I don't have much to go off. There's not much to lose, right? Yeah. Here, there's like, at some level, it's like, okay, maybe there's some more to lose. Maybe not obviously monetarily, but like reputation wise or anything else. Does that like come at you in any way? And now we're getting really, I guess, deep and psychological in some way, but I think about that.
Perhaps. I think if you raise venture funding, you need to know that VCs are taking a risk. It's okay if you do lose their money, as long as like you do what you do pursue the opportunity with your heart. VCs aren't like friends and family. Raising money from friends and family is a risk to your reputation if it fails, and it keeps you up at night. And I had that when I had some friends and family write tiny checks, like 5-10K. I was very stressed about that. I had conversations with a coach about this early on at Vungle, where I'm like, man, we've raised 25 million. What if we fail? It was like, don't worry, they've got 10 other investments just like this.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the game they play. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about, is this the right opportunity for me as a fit? Can I see myself doing this thing for the next 10 years? Not worried about the reputation damage of failing, because I feel like, at least in Silicon Valley, maybe in New York and other areas, failure is a badge of honor. And as long as you keep trying, you'll eventually succeed. I know enough smart people, by the way, who 10 years ago, they didn't have a clue what they were doing, but they stayed consistent. They kept turning over stones. Now they're running unicorns, man. I know at least 10 people, right, who are running unicorns. And the only thing in common with them, they all were like, didn't have great CVs, or like some had good CVs, but there was somewhere where you'd be like, stop emailing me. Like, your idea sucks. Right. They're running massive companies. Suddenly. That's cool. So staying with it for 10 years and like quickly pivoting constantly can make you successful. So failure is a part of that process.
Makes sense. Awesome, Zain. So this has been awesome. I feel like I've learned a lot during the chat. If people want to learn, that's great. If people want to learn more about you, where should they go?
You can find me on Zain-Ventures.com, my family office, or just like hit me up on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time.
It was so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Why Work Here. Ready to find your next role or discover top talent? Visit us at wellfound.com.